What's up, guys? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/StoriesAboutKevin. Alright, this story's called, Two Officer Kevins Accuse Me of Skipping School When I Was a Graduating Senior. Greetings again, Redditors! An old schoolmate and I caught up yesterday and recounted something I pushed to the back of my memory. So yeah, I got another one for you. Sorry it's not as humorous as my last one. This was late spring 2008 in my home state. High school seniors finished classes a week before everyone else. This was also the week before summer vacation. Seniors had to pick up their report cards, no idea why the school didn't mail them, and meet with their counselors if anything else needed wrapping up before graduation. Being a senior, I had to do the same. Since I didn't have a car at the time, I had to walk the 30-minute walk to school. I was 18 at the time, but was often mistaken for younger. Being 5'3" has that effect on me. I'm a few blocks from school when a police car pulls up. Cop 1 stayed in the car, while Cop 2 in the passenger seat got out. A black teen girl cornered by two cops. Yeah, the media would swallow this whole if it happened today. I'll summarize the exchange as best I can.
Aren't you supposed to be in school, young lady?
I'm shaking like a leaf. No, officer. I'm a senior and I have to pick up my report card.
Sure, kid. You know those penalties for skipping school, right?
I do know, but I'm not skipping. I'm done with classes.
Done with going to them, I bet.
I forget what was said after that, but the conversation ended with him telling me to get in the cruiser, or I'd be arrested for ditching school. I didn't know how to compose myself in high-stress situations, so I went along and prayed I'd live to see the end of the day. Wow. They saved me a few blocks getting to my high school. They escorted me inside, and I was just grateful I didn't wet my pants when I saw their holstered guns. We reached the front office entrance when God proved his existence by one of my favorite teachers walking by. A kind and cool as hell white man I'll call Mr. G. Hey, I knew a Mr. G, he was sick. And stopping to see what was going on.
Morning, officers.
OP, it's not like you to get into trouble. What's going on?
We caught this one out during school hours. We figured the principal and the parents would love to hear all about it.
Mr. G looks at me, then back to the cops.
You're mistaken, officers. This girl is part of the graduating class, and they have no more classes. She was probably coming to get her last report card.
I told them that, but they don't believe me.
Well, what were you thinking walking around during school hours?
I was thinking I wish I had a car so I didn't have to walk in 80-degree weather. Realizing they were in the wrong, the cops apologized to me, and I went with Mr. G to get my report card. He was that really cool teacher everyone should have at least once in high school. He told me in a whisper,
"The NWA was right.
Screw the police." Gosh, that cheered me right up. He saw I was still shaken and gave me a hug. The cops were still by the door and offered to take me home and make up for their folly. I reluctantly agreed, but not before Mr. G got their names before leaving. He also told me to call the school and ask for him as soon as I got home. Aww. I had the cops drop me off at the brick apartments near my house instead of telling them where I actually lived. I went into the lobby and waited until they were long gone before walking the rest of the way home. I sank to the floor in the foyer and just cried. I called the school and told Mr. G I was okay. He was glad to hear it and just ranted on how ridiculous the whole thing was. I never told my parents about it and only told a few friends. The friend who reminded me of it said that if this had happened today with all the BLM protests, odds of me getting shot dead then and there were insanely high. Part of me disagrees with him because lots of kids in my small town skipped school and only the less than careful ones got caught. I assume these questions may come up if anyone thought to ask. Why did you get into the police cruiser after that? I was an awkward, timid girl who did poorly with confrontation. But one thing that is still true to this day is that I'm what I like to call a domino effect thinker. I thought that if anything happened to me, Mr. G knew the cops' names and faces, not to mention the school's security cameras. Why didn't you ask Mr. G for a ride home? This happened around 10:30 a.m. and school got out a little before 3. So by the time he was finished for the day, it would have been around 5 p.m. And I didn't want to wait until after school for the bus that two of my bullies rode, as they would see how miserable I was and want to exacerbate that. Why didn't you just walk back home? I was scared, fatigued, and nauseous. I just wanted to get home ASAP and have a breakdown in the shower. What happened with those cops? To this day, I have no idea. First, peeps in the comments, before you start criticizing her for, being scared over what you may perceive as nothing, you must be aware that perspective is a thing. Much like how I was kind of surprised to learn how girls are taught a bunch of situations to avoid that I, as a dude, was never taught because it's not as, much of an issue, if you know what I'm referring to. Well, a lot of times, black parents will teach their black children to be cautious of police, and you see all these stories and stuff like that, and especially as a small black teenager, it would be pretty intimidating to be stopped by police when you're literally doing nothing wrong and being asked to get into the car. Like when you've done nothing wrong. Like that has happened so many times and it has ended poorly. And it's also, just ended normally. It's obvious case of, just a mistake. It's just a mistake. But obviously really scary for, OP. So I'm just saying that so you guys are less harsh in your comments, because I know some of y'all are a little trigger happy with the snowflake. Alright, this story's called Kevin the Roommate. The conclusion. Trigger warning. Sorry I've gone silent for a while, but I am back for the conclusion. There is a trigger warning here in regards to domestic violence. Kevin was beginning to change, staying out late, coming back at all hours of the night, acting more and more unusual. Kevin comes home one day and tells us he has lost his job. We tell him he needs to pull his crap together and find a new job. He agrees. Cool, we're thinking he is, since he is out all day and seems to have some money on him. Good, we don't think much else of it. Kevin meets this girl. We'll call her Stripper Kavina. They hit it off. Stripper Kavina stays the night from time to time. No big deal. Then I notice that Stripper Kavina is there all the time. Kevin asks my husband and I if Stripper Kavina can move in. We tell him no. But instead of leaving, she hides in Kevin's room all day. I found out she was hiding in there when I heard the toilet flush and it was supposed to just be me at home. I was pissed. Then they started fighting, and not just an argument here and there, but full-on screaming and yelling for hours on end. You think she would just leave, right? Of course not. Now, my husband traveled a lot for his job, and it was always short notice, i.e. 2-week trip on Monday, notified on Thursday sort of deal. No big deal. Kevin and Stripper Kavina asked me if I want to go to the bar with them and have a few drinks. I declined. The following day was a Monday and I had work, so I was gonna watch a movie and pass out. Stripper Kavina and Kevin leave. At about 1 a.m. they return. I could tell because my dog barked a bit when they came in. I went back to sleep. At 3, I am awoken by shouting and blood-curdling screams coming from their room. I jump out of bed and grab my phone, ready to call 911. I'm shaking. Who died? Who killed who? I run out of my room and find Kevin standing in our living room holding a knife and screaming his head off. What the hell is going on, Kevin? Kevin! What the hell are you doing? I'm scared Kevin has killed Stripper Kavina at this point. Will he turn on me next? I see Stripper Kavina run up and take the knife from Kevin and throw it in our kitchen. They start shoving each other and screaming in each other's faces. They both look at me and run back to the room, slam the door shut, and start screaming at the top of their lungs. Hardly able to process what just happened and shaking from fear and just overall adrenaline, I stare at my phone illuminating in my face with 911 typed in and go back to my room and sit in bed. Do I call? I need to call? What the hell? That was a knife! I decided to not call. To this day, I still feel very stupid for not calling. So I attempt to call my husband. He's asleep and doesn't answer. So I text him and let him know what just happened. I was still so filled with adrenaline, I wasn't able to sleep for the rest of the night. They finally stopped screaming at each other at around 6 a.m. Later that morning, Kevin texts me and wants to apologize for what happened the night before. I tell him we are going to have a serious talk when I get home. I am beyond pissed. I tell Kevin I have had enough, and he posed a serious risk to himself and others. I told him to get his crap together or get the frick out. I'm tired of it. He understood and thanked me for not calling the cops. He went to his room and I heard him and stripper Kavina talking about the night before and what I said. Stripper Kavina apologized to me a couple of days later and confessed that they had been doing copious amounts of drugs. So I went into Kevin's room to investigate. It was littered with rotten food, baggies with a white substance, and numerous bottles of liquor, beer, and wine. Kevin had driven the knife he was hiding that night through the door twice. I showed my husband. Kevin and stripper Kavina were given 2 weeks to get out. Stripper Kavina bolted quickly, taking everything she had. Kevin left shortly after and left every item he had in the room and didn't bother to clean. We cleaned the entire room. I found more baggies stuffed into the shoe boxes. There were at least 3 shoe boxes jammed packed with these baggies. We bagged up some of Kevin's clothes in the off chance he would return. He did 2 months later and didn't even apologize or seem to care. He was too far gone in his addiction, which was sad to see, but we were more than done. It has been 5 years since Kevin left. We have not heard from him since. We are fine with this. We heard he has been arrested on drug charges and seemingly cleaned up. A friend told us he felt very horrible for how he left the situation with us, but we honestly could not care less. He did what he did. By the way, Kevin lost his job because he got into a physical altercation with his boss while high. So there is the thrilling conclusion to Kevin, the roommate. That was actually a really exciting conclusion. I really hope he cleaned himself up. Well, that was, I don't know what else to say. I can't talk. Crazy strippers. This story's called Angry Kevin versus the World. My middle school was blessed with its very own Kevin, a plump boy with anger issues who had had to repeat 3rd grade for unknown reasons. I didn't encounter him until 6th grade, but that was when his Kevinness began to shine through in its full glory. Here are a few stories from his career of asshattery. In 6th grade, Kevin hit our PE teacher, a 60-year-old German man with a knee brace who really shouldn't work with kids, but had kept his job through sheer intimidation with a lacrosse stick. The reason? The PE teacher wouldn't let him play forward. The fact that Kevin failed to outrun this limping senior citizen should give you a decent idea as to why. I have so many stories about that PE teacher, but this isn't the thread for that. At our end of the year party, I had gotten up from my seat to talk to a girl I knew and grab more cookies and returned to see Kevin occupying my seat. The following exchange ensued. "Hey Kevin, can I have my seat back please?"
How about now, you Belgian bastard?
I'm Polish actually.
Doesn't look like I give much of a crap now, does it?
Interesting side note. Kevin is of German descent and takes a strange pride in the fact that one of his ancestors was a Luftwaffe pilot in World War II. Is that like the European equivalent to like, you know, all the hicks down here with the rebel flag going,
"It's our heritage"?
The following year, Kevin had a history class taught by the dean of students. Kevin thought that this class was the perfect class to cheat on a test in. The dean, mind you, being notoriously eagle-eyed and bat-eared, and also having an outstanding dislike for Kevin. So Kevin smuggled an answer sheet in and kept glancing down at it. The dean caught on 10 minutes in and stormed over. Kevin saw him coming and clenched his fist, squinting his pig-like features at the dean. A putrid scent washed over the room. Kevin had thought this tactic would keep the dean away so he could finish his test. Boy, was he wrong. After serving his suspension, Kevin signed up for the school 7th and 8th grade baseball team. Wait a sec, is this in America? I assumed it was because they're talking about their freaking European countries. He was a surprisingly good third baseman, considering his impressive girth and small brain. Also on the team was Kevin's little brother, who I'll call John. John is better than Kevin in every way, and is also a year younger. They're in the same grade because Kevin got held back. That's so embarrassing. Our catcher had forgotten his groin cup, and coach was pissed because we were scrimmaging. Kevin's response? John can do it, coach! He's got balls of steel! Kevin's little brother was not amused. 8th grade was my last year in Kevin's company. Kevin opened the year by smuggling his Game Boy Color into classes so he could play Pokemon Gold instead of working. This is another way in which Kevin had poor taste. Silver version was objectively better. He's actually not wrong, because with Silver, both Pokemon, Lugia and Ho-Oh, are more powerful than their Gold variants. Because the way they're leveled and the moves that they have available, he's actually right. When caught, he told the math teacher that her opinion didn't matter and resumed his game. Upon returning from another suspension, he was seen to have named a Grimer, a Pokemon that amounts to a pile of sludge, after her. Kevin did petty crap like that all the time. Kevin took to spending free periods behind the school where stoners, Pokemon players, gangstas, and other classy individuals hung out. Kevin drifted between those groups, trading Pokemon for Pokemon and money for weed. He once tried to trade a Pokemon for weed and got punched for his trouble. We still don't know if he was high or not when that occurred. Anyway, Kevin wound up getting all the stoners busted when he smashed his junk against a pretty English teacher's office window and prompted her and another teacher to come out back. His popularity nosedived, although his third suspension meant he didn't immediately suffer the effects. Later in the year, our bio class was dissecting pig hearts. I was talking to the bio teacher and my partner when we heard sounds of disgust coming from the lab table. We looked over and saw Kevin chewing contentedly on a piece of raw pig flesh. His reason? It smelled like Mama's cooking. Shockingly, Kevin suffered no ill effects from this endeavor. I guess cold storage killed all the nasty stuff in the bucket of pig flesh. At the 8th grade moving up ceremony, Kevin was appalled that he didn't win any awards and slapped the dean with his diploma. He was promptly told to go home and later formally expelled. They let his brother stick around though, because that kid wasn't a total screw-up. And so concludes the tale of Kevin, the lacrosse stick swinging, teacher flashing, pig skin eating German boy. Yeah, okay, so they used to pickle the baby pigs in formaldehyde, but I think that was like a little too toxic or something like that. I'm not 100% sure. So, especially if it's like an 8th grade class or something, dissecting the pig hearts or something, then it's probably going to be something less dangerous to ingest. And if you just took off a little chunk, I'm sure it should have been fine. And it was. But yes, don't eat dissection specimens, because they usually are pumped full of chemicals. They're pickled, and not the good kind. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.